I guess, as Julia said, we've worked quite closely over the years, and if we're talking about facilitation, that's the key role of the CEO, if you like, of HunteNet or other clusters. And it's about disparate people and organisations coming together to work for a common cause. So the job is to find what are the common causes, what can people do together. And it's also interesting that Julia, over the years, has measured this correlation between people, this connection between people, because as we grew, and so it was harder to make the connections and they became more diverse, so we used to measure it. And once we measured it, we could then determine strategies to make sure that we didn't let it get away from us. So that was quite, and that's happened over some 15 years. Prior to my role as CEO of HunteNet, I was also a member of HunteNet and also chair of HunteNet. So I kind of grew into it. And at the beginning, we set the organisation up because BHP was shutting down, the steel industry was closing, and in many cases, SMEs, 80% of their business was through BHP. And so people said, what are we going to do? The best thing to do is work together and do things differently. And that's a good definition of innovation, but do it differently, but do it in a way that adds value. And so over the years, various programs unfolded. And Julia referred to one of those, connecting to other networks. We did some research in the 90s about innovation, Innovate the Hunter was called, and what we found was that people in the Hunter didn't want to go anywhere. They'd much rather do business in their own backyard. They didn't want to go anywhere else. And thus we also had a very low performance in export and a low performance in R&D. So programs are set in place to help drive exports for SMEs. Way back, the Hunter accounted for about 1% of federal R&D grants, and with a population of 3.5%, obviously we had a way to go. So we tried to innovate ways and strategies to drive people to connect to the university. Julia said, the Triangle and the university were a founding partner of HunteNet. They could see the benefits, and still do, of connecting to industry and working with industry. And over those last 20 years or so, that imperative has obviously grown. Other innovations were a group training company. Where a decade, 15 years ago, you couldn't get tradespeople, not good tradespeople, in fact, not any tradespeople. As they say, if they had a pulse, they'd get a job. But so we set up our own group training company. We thought we could grow our own, if you like. And also sharing, that's the other imperative for networks and clusters. So we would actually share the apprentices between different companies, so we could have those skills moved around, or if a company didn't have enough skills to train an apprentice fully, we'd move it to another one. So, and that business has grown quite significantly. Another one, and we heard about it from Robert Masterson, who's here today. We heard about this yesterday, where individual companies would set up a holding company so that they could actually bid on a project together. Individually, they couldn't do it. In fact, individually, they couldn't even get in the front door for these organisations to talk about their capabilities. But together, as a collective, as we call the power of many in HunteNet, that could be achieved. And we heard, as I say yesterday, a new organisation called Pentab, which is set up as an associate of HunteNet to do exactly that. Another innovation which we thought was really great was setting up a network so that we could connect to the supply chain for the coal industry. Once again, SMEs had skills and capabilities but could not get access to the coal industry or to the supply chain. So coming together and using an arm of government, Enterprise Connect, we could put a package together so that those companies would go and do a pitch, if you like, to the industry, talk about what they're good at. They'd get feedback. They'd be told if they were good or they had to fix certain areas up, or maybe not at all, that they shouldn't do it. Companies in defence, and we heard about this yesterday, who have skills, but the defence being very lumpy, they'd find that there were times when they didn't really have any work on, and that happens on a regular basis if you're supplying defence. So the job was to take those skills and see how they would fit another industry, and that worked too, to the rail industry and to the mining industry. The manufacturing industry is noted to a degree for its lack of gender balance, was typically white, older males, and so we set out a program to attract younger people into the industry, but in particular women, because we clearly had a skills shortage, and we thought, well, there's a good untapped resource there. And engineers today, I think women engineers are holding key roles in various organisations in the Hunter. So the power of many is the way we used to talk about HunteNet. The job of the CEO is to facilitate, bring people together, have a common cause, and at the end of the day, another key word is trust. You have to have trust in each other to share, sharing information and collaborate. Any work you read on innovation will talk about the importance of collaboration, trust, they're all there. So I think HunteNet has been a good example over the years, but it's the Hunter is a good place to grow networks as well, because it's the right size, it's big enough, there's a history, there's a tradition, and people do know each other, they do connect. So without that kind of base to work from, it would have been that much harder. Okay. Thanks, Julia.
We'll save questions till the end, till we've heard from all of our panel members, if that's okay. And I just want to say that John did do a fabulous job as the CEO of HunteNet, because it really is, if any of you are aware of a study that's been undertaken on clusters and networks, the Cluster Green Book that's come out of Europe, there's a new version that's just come out. I was in Denmark for the conference last year, and it really highlighted the importance of effective facilitation and management of the clusters for them to actually grow and develop and innovate. Okay, so our next speaker on the panel is Claire Williams, and she's a creative industry strategist with a particular interest in industry clusters. So in 2012, she wrote the 20-year anniversary history of HunteNet, and one of, as we know, we just heard of Australia's leading industry clusters. And with myself and Evelyn King, she recently completed a research project for IDC Hunter into industry clusters in the Hunter, with a special focus on the potential for the digital creative industries. So welcome, Claire.